I've got my wine glass ready to toast our next guest, Donald Sodaro. Not only is he a respected leader and philanthropist within Orange County and beyond, he is also the president and CEO of the National Hanford Hotel Company and the chairman of the board of trustees here at Chapman University.
And if that's not enough, Don also owns a vineyard in Napa Valley, the Sodaro Estate Winery, which has developed award-winning Cabernets. And we're pleased to welcome him here today to talk about the winemaking process and what makes it good for you. Don, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You've had such an illustrious career everywhere, and now you have these fantastic gold medal winning wines within 4 or 5 years after opening this winery. Congratulations. But this is a complicated process, but can you simplify it for us and just tell us, how do you know when the grape is ready to be picked to make this wine?
Well, the short answer to that is that the winemaker and the vineyard manager work together, and they have an instrument called a spectrometer, and they're able to tell the sugar level in the fruit. They also have to worry about the weather. They've got a lot of things they have to consider, but the main thing is what is the sugar level in the fruit.
So when it gets to a certain level, you know it's ripe, and that's when you pick it. And then after you pick it, you have to do what?
What happens, they pick a day that they're going to pick, and because it's our own vineyard, our own wine, we can pick even the next day, which is very, very crucial. The men are there about 6 o'clock in the morning, usually just about sunup, because they want the fruit to be cool when it gets into the winery. So they'll pick, bring it up to the winery. We have to weigh everything because we have to make very meticulous reports. It goes into a unit called a destemmer crusher. Now, I don't like the term crush because it gives everybody the impression that we're smashing this, which is the one thing we certainly don't want to do. We want to pop that grape, let the juice run out of that grape, and then that skin and the seeds and the juice all go into a pump. That point is called a must. It's pumped into a stainless steel fermenter, which is temperature controlled. It sits in the fermenter under the watchful eye of the winemaker, and the winemaker is there to control a whole bunch of things. Actually controls the time it's in the fermenter, controls the temperature, and controls the fermenting process. And the fermenting process is the process of converting sugar into alcohol. And they use yeast. Now there's either a yeast in the environment, or she may add yeast. In our case, we have a wonderful woman winemaker, and she will, in using her judgment, she'll add the yeast. Constantly while this is going on, and this could be a 3 to 6 week period of fermentation, while this is going on, she's taking samples and sending the samples to the lab. And they're checking for pH, they're checking for alcohol level, they're checking for all various things, the sugar levels that are still in the fermentation process. So while she's doing this, they're also doing what we call a pump over. There's a lot of ways to do this. What they want to do is after the must is in the fermenter, then over a period of time, the seeds and the skins float to the top, and that's called a cap. But that has all of the color in it and the tannins and the things that you're trying to bring into the wine. So we do what we call a pump over. We take the fruit, the juice out of the bottom of the tank and pump it over the top and let it run down through.
So you can make a white wine from red grapes, right?
Yes.
And what gives your red wine, the juice is actually clear, but it's the skin that makes it the red wine.
That's right, and this pump over picks it up. And she can control the color of the wine to a great extent.
And you can control how much sweetness is in the wine. You can control the alcohol content, kind of like.
Well, obviously within limits, but yes, and that's a very important part of the winemaker's job.
Then you bottle it right away, or do you keep it in a vat or something for a few more months or a year, or what do you do?
Well, after the fermentation process, then we go through what we call malolactic. And while this is pretty technical, and I'm not a technician, malic acid is converted into lactic acid. And what that does is that improves the texture of the wine, and it also improves the smoothness of it. So malic acid is a little harsh. Lactic acid, like having milk, is a lot smoother.
And so then you stir in, I guess, wood
Then
barrels.
we put them in the wood barrels. And the wood barrels, and there's all kinds of wood barrels. There's French oak, there's American oak, etc. We only use French oak in ours. And they pump it into these barrels, fill them to the top so that there's no oxidation that goes on. And basically, except for periods of time when they rack the barrels, which take the wine out, clean out the sediment, put the wine back in, it sits there for 18 months.
And then you have 3 gold medal wines like that.
Well, there's another step. One more step between that. After about a year in the barrels, when we keep the free run separate from the press run. We didn't get into pressing the wine, but we keep those separate. We keep all of the different varietals separate. So the Cabernets, the Merlots, the Petit Verdot, those are all separate. And they're kept, so it gets very complicated. Now, after about a year, then we all sit down together and we start making up blends to see this blend, we like this, we don't like that, it's a little too this, it's a little too that, and so on and so forth. And we go through that for a period of a couple of weeks. After we've decided on what the blend is, then we take it all out of the barrels, blend it in big stainless steel tanks, and then put it all back, blended, into the barrel. Then it sits there for another 18 months.
Oh.
Okay, now it sits there for another 6 months. I'll get it yet. About 6 months. Then we bottle it.
Then you get the gold medal.
So,
No, not yet.
not yet. Now, is it safe to assume that the red wine is more nutritious because it has the skins in the wine in terms of nutrients? Or?
You'd have to ask the doctor that.
The most important thing of wine is that it's alcohol. And every
Hear,
study
hear.
in the world shows that alcohol...
So stipulated.
We all know alcohol benefits everybody in moderation. And moderation means that for a woman, 1 drink a day is beneficial. Men, no more than 2 drinks. So all your risk, your heart attack risk and chance of dying goes down as you drink the wine. But once you start drinking more than 2 in men or 1 in women, then the risk goes up. And an alcohol quantity for us is 5 ounces of wine or a shot of spirits, which is 1.5 ounces. That's considered 1 drink. Or a bottle of beer, which is 12 ounces. If you take more than that, then you start to have bad effects of alcohol, which means you can get abnormal heart rhythms, you can get a weakened heart, you can get cirrhosis, ulcers, dementia, on and on. The question is wine better than alcohol? And there are other things, especially red wine, called resveratrol, which is when the skins are fermented and this chemical comes out, and we think it has some other antioxidant effects, anti-aging effects, but we're not really sure because the quantity in red wine is so small.
Now, is that one of the factors involved in the French paradox, where French people, who generally enjoy a much fattier diet than Americans, drink red wine? Does that keep it all in check? How does that work exactly?
Well, we thought that was the case because the French paradox is just what you said. They eat more saturated fats, yet they have less heart disease. But they also do other things. They kind of exercise more. They're in a warm climate. People have less heart disease then. Or temperate climate, they eat more dairy fats rather than animal fats. But wine certainly is a big part of the Mediterranean diet. So the other question is are grapes just as beneficial as wine? And it really seems to be that grapes can relax your arteries and they lower your bad cholesterol. But when you add alcohol in wine, you get the benefits of lowering your bad cholesterol, increasing your good cholesterol, and preventing clotting of blood. So if you had to choose your weapons in life, grapes are good, just like blueberries. Alcohol of any sort in moderation is better, and maybe wine has a little bit extra benefit over spirits and beer, and maybe red wine a tiny bit, but it's a questionable advantage over white wine.
Well, we're just about out of time, and Mr. Sodaro, it was a pleasure having you here at Larry Santora's bar. Thank you for bringing the best brew. You've really, that is an amazing accomplishment, and it was just a pleasure to hear all about the winemaking process. You'll have to come back so we can have more detail on this.
There's a lot more to it, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
there
but
is very
my
interest-
pleasure.